all of this nonsense is happening with signature gatherers. We have some Democratic leaders who are saying the right things. Attorney General Nick Brown saying, hey, don't harass signature gatherers and undermine our democracy. Secretary of State Steve Hobbs has had similar sentiments. But the question is, how do we make meaningful change? How do we protect signature gatherers moving forward? This segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. Make sure you sign up for their newsletter to be alerted to opportunities to do just that. So you'll recall when this level of harassment was happening in 2023 against Let's Go Washington signature gatherers, there was a small effort to try to change things. There was a bill introduced. It had a little bit of bipartisan support that would have protected and put essentially a buffer zone around people who are gathering signatures that would provide additional legal protections under the law to make sure that someone couldn't walk up and get in their face or, try to scream and dissuade people from signing. But that bill didn't go anywhere because Democrats decided they didn't want it to go anywhere. I went down, I testified in front of a committee, as did someone from Secretary of State Steve Hobbs' office. And based on a video that Steve Hobbs posted over the weekend, it sounds like maybe he is interested in trying to push a bill like that again.
These instances reiterate the necessity to protect all voters' constitutionally guaranteed rights. Our state experienced similar behavior in 2023 when I received reports of signature gatherers being disrupted in their efforts to collect signatures for 6 initiatives. In an effort to strengthen protections for citizens engaged in the initiative process, I supported a bill by former state rep Greg Cheney that prohibited certain activities within 25 feet of signature collection efforts. Unfortunately, the bill did not pass, but offered promise of bipartisan support in making the democratic process accessible to all participants.
So the legislative session is a couple months away. Is there promise of bipartisan support to finally do something that very clearly needs to be done? We have laws in place that put a buffer zone around ballot drop boxes. It arguably makes far more sense to have it for initiative gathering locations. So State Senator Jeff Wilson, a Republican from the 19th Legislative District, he was one of the first people in 2023 to reach out to say, we need to do something about this. I'm going to help run a bill. And so right after some of these latest instances, he put out a press release saying we're going to try to gather support between now and the legislative session to put a bill forth, not just to create this buffer zone, but actually to increase the penalty to a felony for people who disrupt the initiative gathering process. Senator, welcome back to Undivided.
Well, thank you, Brandi. Good to be here today.
Yeah, well, thanks for taking time to obviously speak out about what's happening, but kind of look for a solution moving forward. So the bill to try to protect signature gatherers went nowhere in 2023, despite having support from the Secretary of State's office. Why do you think that was?
Well, it may not have fit the majority's intention for, let's just say, the initiative process. That particular bill somewhat died in Ways and Means. It's there, but advancing it doesn't seem to be an option at this point.
Yeah, we saw Secretary of State Steve Hobbs this weekend come out with another video where he condemned the behavior towards signature gatherers and also reiterated, look, there was an opportunity after what happened in 2023 to try to help with this, but the legislature didn't do anything. So do you think that because he's becoming a little more vocal, maybe there'll be a better chance this year?
Well, absolutely. In fact, I saw the recent video and I applaud Secretary Hobbs for his, call out to everybody to respect the process and remind everybody that it's already against the law to annoy and harass in a very important process for signature gatherers. I look at it as I appreciate his support, but at this time, Brandi, I'm looking for a lot more support. This should be a across the aisle uproar due to the many documented incidences just in the past few weeks. In other words, everybody should be paying attention and speaking out on this.
Yeah, but when you look at this from a realistic perspective, these are initiatives that, I think across the board there are people who want these policies, but they look at them as conservative issues that are contrary to the beliefs of the Democratic Party. And you have some of their largest donors like the ACLU of Washington, the Washington Education Association, that are actually running snitch lines. Even the state Democratic Party ran a snitch line to report signature gatherers in 2023. So it seems like from a political perspective, they don't want the initiatives to be successful. So I don't feel like they're going to put an effort forth to protect signature gatherers.
Well, it certainly does appear that way, and I would support what you're saying. But this year should be the proof in the pudding. If anybody can just look at the events of this year and turn the other way, like we did with previous legislation, that's a problem in itself. What we're talking about here is our state constitution, regardless of political party. That famous, Article 2, Section 1, the right for the people to have such power. It should have everybody, independents, Republicans, and Democrats, calling their elected representatives and saying, we need to do this process without political violence. It's direct democracy, Brandi, is what's at stake here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So what's your plan as we prepare for the new legislative session?
Well, the plan is, number one, is to draw attention to this, to see if I can gather colleagues to do what I would say, step up and to make a plea to do this, on a calm basis, respect the law before we can change the law. This is escalated to be so serious. I think we need to put some more teeth into this, going from misdemeanor to a Class C felony in certain instances. I think that it's reasonable to ask that. At this time, it just doesn't look good when everybody's democracy, per se, can be jeopardized. And law enforcement needs to get a clear memo, Brandi. They need to get a clear memo. There's already an existing law to enforce. And we need to get this to a point where they understand we're going to make clarity, and a Class C felony, it will do that. Believe me, I think it'll get a lot more people's attention. They may even think twice before ripping up a signed sheet or something like that.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. I do believe that the threat of stiffer penalties can be a deterrent factor. But I would also say it doesn't even appear that they're enforcing the law that's already on the books, and that's problematic. I mean, all of these instances that have happened in the last month, we haven't heard of progress in any of those cases. And so I think first and foremost, enforcing the laws that are on the books and making sure that that's being done and holding entities accountable that do not do that is step one. But there has to be. If I know there are Republican state or Democratic state lawmakers who watch the show, I would like to see you get involved vocally in pushing back against what's happening. It also contacts Senator Jeff Wilson, say, I want to be a co-sponsor on that bill. There is no reason in the world, if this were a signature gathering to ban, semi-automatic weapons of war, and you had Republicans who were engaged in this behavior against that sort of signature gathering effort, it would be a no-brainer. They'd do it instantly. They'd protect them. So let's not be just hopeless hypocrites, okay? Let's get Democratic lawmakers, get in touch with Senator Wilson, get on his bill, work with the Secretary of State's office. He'll support it, and let's just get this done. Let's all grow up and let's move forward and move past this. That segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Future 42. Turn your frustrations into action at future42.org. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter to be alerted to opportunities to do just that.